Oh my small gods. Oh my small gods, this is so hilarious. This is absolutely hilarious. Seriously, it's hilarious. You should read it. I'm going to tell you why. Sorry, I'm just thinking about this book again, and it's so funny. I'll be right back. You want to know more? I'll be right back. Coming up on Drew's Book Reviews, Small Gods. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Coming right up. Okay, let's see if I can get through this whole review without laughing, because again, oh my small gods, this book is hilarious. But before we get into the review, make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe, join me over on the Discord if you want to have a chat about Terry Pratchett's Discworld. Now, I had heard that Small Gods is by far one of the best books in the entire Discworld universe. And I have to tell you, it lived up to its hype. This book is hilarious, and I have to say, I think it's probably one of the best books that I have read in Discworld. I think this is definitely going to make my favorite Discworld book. In fact, it is my favorite Discworld book so far. Small Gods. This book is just filled with classic Terry Pratchett humor, and yet it really discusses so many fundamentally important things in the influence of religion within our world and how the gods came to be. What are gods? Who are the gods? Why do they exist? What do they need to exist? Small Gods by Terry Pratchett is phenomenal. Just phenomenal. One of the best books that I have read this year, and one of the funniest books I have read in such a long time. Terry Pratchett goes in here and he pokes fun at everything from religion to our governmental institutions, and just even atheism. It talks about how God loves an atheist standing out in the middle of a desert. He's always open to be persecuted, like just stuff like that. It's just too funny. So Small Gods is a story about this one priest in this country of Omnia, and there's this one small god, and he only has one worshiper, which is this one priest, and only this one priest can hear him. But the thing is, this god is a tortoise, or that's all it is. He's a tortoise. He's trapped in this tortoise's body, and he can only speak to this one priest, Brutha. And so he's trying to communicate to Brutha about him being a god, but Brutha's having these conversations, and the god's being blasphemous throughout these conversations. Yes, that's right. You heard me. The god is being blasphemous against the very things that he supposedly has said and told his prophets in the past that are written down in their holy books. And Brutha's just trying to come to terms with this. Like, wait, how can you say that? You're a god. That's blasphemous. He's like, how can I? What do you mean that's blasphemous? I'm a god. Anything I say isn't blasphemous. I can't blaspheme myself. I'm God. And it's hilarious the way he addresses this in so many different ways throughout the book. It's just, from start to finish, I was laughing hardcore constantly as I read this book. And I just love the way that this is approached within this book. From start to finish, everything is hilarious. So what we have here is a lot of what's being said, a lot of the poking fun that Terry Pratchett does within this book. See, he kind of portrays the eagle and the tortoise and how they're at this kind of conflict throughout the story, and that the eagle likes to swoop down, pick up the tortoise, teach him how to fly, and then drop him, cracking open his shell. And of course the god who is a tortoise, is having issue with this, and he's always worried that the eagle's going to come and pick him up and fly him up into the sky and drop him down to crack his shell, because there's this constant reference in here in this book about how tortoises are good eating, and of course the god is a tortoise. So of course he's thinking, maybe I should make a commandment that thou shalt not eat tortoises. And everything is so hilarious in here. So the approach that he takes is that gods exist because we believe in them. They can't exist without our belief. They get their power and their influence over our lives are derived from our faith and belief in those gods. Whether they're small gods, big gods, and of course small gods are the gods that only have a few followers, where the big gods have millions and billions of followers. So the amount of followers of faith believers that you have in you determine how big you are on the grand scope of the pantheon of the gods. And of course Om is just a small god. He's this piddly little tiny tortoise god that only has one follower, which is this Sprutha guy, who's basically now a heretic against the religion because, you know, that's not their god. So he gets into trouble with his religious clergy. And in addition to that, they're on their way to this other nation and country, which is like this nation of heathens, who they are determined to convert and destroy their heathen ways and bring them unto Omnion, worshipping the true gods that exist. And so there's this religious war that's kind of set off of this crusade to bring the heathens to God. And so he addresses this conflict between, you know, secularism and religion within the greater scope of the small god's world that he has created within this book, or the Discworld that has been created within this book. So when we take a look at this country of philosophers, of Thebes, I believe they call it. But anyway, this country is basically made up of these philosophers, or at least that's kind of the idea portrayed behind it, that we're all philosophers, we all have our ideas, we all come up with ideas all the time, and eventually we come up with a good idea. You know, 1 in 100 is a good idea. And so this is a country full of philosophers, but they don't really believe in or accept the reality of the gods, at least not to any great extent. They accept that people believe in gods, that the gods are worshipped. They don't have a problem with that. But they're not, you know, this pious religious theocracy. And so, of course, the country of Omnia has a problem with this, and they have to bring them into their religious theocracy. And the funny thing about the way this country is described is it describes their leader as the tyrant. That's right, they actually call their leader the tyrant. And how does the tyrant become the tyrant? Well, he's elected every 5 years to be the tyrant, as long as he could prove that he is, in fact, trustworthy, honorable, a good person in general, and has integrity. And if you convince people that that is you, then you get elected to be tyrant for 5 years. And of course, right after you become elected to be tyrant, you immediately prove that you are not anything at all that you said you were. You're in fact a liar and corrupt and a horrible person. But hey, 5 years later, you can be elected tyrant again. It's just, just the way he describes that is just hilarious, because he's completely and totally poking fun at the institutions of democratically elected governments, which I find hilarious the way he approaches that, and the way that Terry Pratchett talks about that in this book. It's just too funny the way that that is approached, and I absolutely love that. In addition to that, this country of Thebes that is this, you know, secular nation that elects their tyrant every 5 years, they have slaves. But the funny thing is, this isn't slaves like you might otherwise think of it. Anyway, so there's this one conversation between the priests and the slaves where the slave's talking about how he gets, you know, 3 meals a day, and twice a year he gets to run away for, you know, up to a week at a time, or he gets 2 weeks a year in which he could run away. But he always comes back. And the priest can't understand why. Why would you want to come back to slavery? Why would you voluntarily come back to slavery? And the priest asks him about his life. It's like, oh, you know, I get, you know, 1 or 2 sparse meals a day. I work every single day, 7 days a week. I don't get any days off, and I don't really get paid much. And the slave's like, you know what? I think I'd rather be a slave then. Because just the way he describes it, and kind of pokes fun at the idea that the working class is a slave to earning our money and to making a living. And the slave's totally fine with this, because, you know, in a couple years he'll get to quit being a slave and he'll become free. And by free, he means no longer working, retired, not having a job, and therefore not really having the opportunity to earn money anymore. But he'll be free in just a couple years, just 4 more years, and he'll be free. And it's just hilarious the way Terry Pratchett addresses that within this book. And he really just pokes fun at everything. And while he makes, you know, and I've actually heard people refer to working for a living as slavery, and refer to what we're doing as slavery, which is preposterous to me. Absolutely preposterous. It's the most ridiculous idea I've heard. But I love the way Terry Pratchett pokes fun at this idea that, you know, we're working, we get vacation time, we're able to retire, and we're generally better off for it, versus this other idea, which the priests are living in more of a slave-like life than the actual people they're thinking of as slaves in this book, because they don't have money, they don't have resources, they get, you know, a couple of shoddy meals a day. And it's just hilarious the contrast that Terry Pratchett paints between these two different groups of people, and what one perceives as this horrible slavery is maybe not what that horrible, maybe not what it really is. Maybe slavery actually is worse than what you're thinking of as slavery. And that is just, I love the way Terry Pratchett approaches that, and he just has so much packed within this book. And it's just awesome. Terry Pratchett even goes so far as to poke fun at the flat world, or the flat earthers essentially within this. Within this book, within this world of Discworld, this religion, omniism, preaches that the world is a ball flying around the sun, which is also a ball. But yet, the scientists of this world, who have sailed to the edge of the Discworld and have looked down and have seen the elephant standing on the back of the giant tortoise flying through space, or the giant turtle flying through space. And so they're saying, no, it's not a ball, it's a flat disc, 10,000 miles wide, and it's sitting on the backs of 4 elephants, which are standing on a giant space turtle flying through space. That is the truth. But Omnia says, no, that's blasphemous. It's wrong. Our world is definitely a ball, and it's definitely flying through space around another big ball, which is the sun. So the sun's not moving, we are, and we're on a ball. And so he even brings in this conflict between the flat earth and the sphere earth ideas. Except, and of course, the Discworld, everything's reversed. The Discworld really is flat, and it's not a sphere, but the religion preaches complete opposite of what the science proves. And that is just absolutely hilarious to me. I cannot express just how good this book was. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. By far the best Discworld book that I've read so far. And probably the funniest Discworld book that I've read so far. And it is just, wow. Everything, wow, was so hilarious from start to finish. And I highly, highly recommend this. If you don't read any other Discworld book ever, you gotta read Small Gods. If you only read one Discworld book, Small Gods. This is by far the best Discworld book that I've read so far. Easily 5 out of 5 stars for me. Just great from start to finish. Aside from the comedy, the discussion that he has, the things that he addresses, the way he approaches them, the philosophy, the context, the discussions and arguments, everything within this book, from Holy Wars and Crusades to our electoral process to, you know, what life is really like, the conflict between religious and secular ideas. Just, wow, you gotta read it. You really just gotta read this book. And I know this has been a bit of a gush review, but oh my God, oh my small gods, this is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Small Gods by Terry Pratchett. You will not regret picking this book up. I promise you that. It is just hilarious. You will be laughing. You will be intrigued. You will love the discussion that happens within this book around these conflicting ideas. You will love it. I promise you that. Pick it up, read it, check it out. And while you're checking Small Gods out, check out my Discord. That'll be linked below. And again, thank you so much for watching. If you like this, if you want to hear more Terry Pratchett, I am reading one Discworld book a month until I get through the whole series. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts on Terry Pratchett's books, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you know when I upload a new video. Like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, we will see you next time on the next episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Until then, keep on reading. Bye.